Hey, 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 microphone check. Microphone check. What up? What is this? Your boy Mad Scientist. Yes, indeed. Um, and this is the all new Power 97.5 LA. Today we are just talking music, where we bring you vital information about music production, promotion, and distribution every week right here on the Odyssey Radio app. All right, now that I've got that introduction in, I want to welcome everybody here once again. Um, and thank everybody who's continued to support this show and this format uh, right here on the all new Power 97.5 LA, where we bring you, the hottest topics, news, reviews, and all the stuff going down in the city of Angels from Los Angeles, California. Okay. And I want to say my name is Mad Scientist, and my show is on every day, Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Okay. And you can always catch us on the Odyssey Radio app. I know I say that fast, but if you are listening on a website, that's great. Love it. The website is a powerful place to be. I'm always encouraging people to go to the website. Okay. That's for those who don't know, that's power975la.com. Once again, that's power975la.com. We have really great promotion there. One of the promotions that we have there at the website is for concerts and shows, right? So you got the Mary J. Blige, the Neo, and the Mario show. You got the Millennium Tour with Trey Songz, Omarion, and Bow Wow. You got the All Star Comedy Jam and the Sexy Red for Presidents Tour. So if you do go to the website, got really great opportunities to get tickets to great shows and opportunities to win tickets to great shows. If you're already on the website, then you know all this stuff. I would encourage you to go ahead and download the Odyssey Radio app. We're also there. And then listen to your boy Mad Scientist every day, Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Um, on the Midday Madness show. Okay. Now, when I do my Midday Madness show, it's totally different than when I'm doing just talking. Okay. So it's a show. We play a lot of music, hot topics, things like that. Whereas when I do the just talking music, it's just talking music. Um, I've gotten a couple comments like, hey, because they know me as either a DJ or they know me from the shows, and they're like, and they're waiting for the show to happen, right? And I have to explain to people that now when I'm doing this, it's more about an educational process. So it's not about music, it's more about music marketing. And the approach is going to be more from an educational point of view. That's why we do it on Saturday. That's why it's shorter, because I know people are like, I don't want to I don't want to hear the lecture. Well, that's the point. The lecture is the point. You know what I mean? So sorry. At some point in time, we have to balance life out. And this is the balance that I try to give the people who support not only the station, but support me as an artist, support me as a DJ, support me as a host. Okay. This is the balance that I try to provide, right? It can't just be all like, but I thank you for the people who gave the comments. I appreciate it. I do hear it. Okay. So I'll try to make this education a little bit more entertainment. Okay. If I can, we'll see. Okay. So for the past, I want to say 3 weeks, we've been talking about AI. And I want to tell you about a conversation I was having yesterday with a friend of mine, and we're talking about hip hop and the fact that a lot of the legacy acts And legacy acts meaning acts from the 90s, maybe even from the 80s. I believe Rakim. Now I believe I know Rakim released a project, and he's more 88. But definitely a lot of artists from the 90s are starting to put out music again, right? Um, and I was having a conversation with a friend of mine, and okay, I'll just put him out with my manager, okay? And I was saying to him that the interesting thing will be if these legacy acts can figure out how to create a hip hop sound that is not based upon um, the samples that they chose. So back in the 90s, you would find samples and you would use chop up the sample, you would use the sample, and essentially that sample that you use, which was a real recording. It's not like some arbitrary thing that just came out and you just go get it. It's a full recording, okay? It's a full performance. It's a full production. It's a full mastered project, right? That you're sampling and then chopping up and then creating a new recording, production, and mastered project. Okay. So it's not like you're just going out and get arbitrary stock sounds. Well, that gave hip hop a certain signature sound, right? So when people heard it, they're like, okay, that's hip hop, right? Well, that process is very expensive and it may not, for this time period, be very beneficial for people to go out, sample somebody's recording when you know you can't monetize your song now. And monetize meaning it's not going to be played on the radio, so you're not getting any publishing back. Um, and you might go out and perform, but if you're a legacy act, they want to hear the stuff that you did before, not the new stuff, right? They may want to hear the new stuff, and you're going to present it, but you may not be able to monetize um, the music that you make if it's sample based the same way you could in the 90s. Okay. And so, from what I'm hearing so far, and I've listened to, you know, Common has a project out with Pete Rock. Um, like I said, Rakim has a project out. Redman just released a project. Snoop Dogg, as you know, many of you, I've been like pushing that out, like pushing Snoop, Snoop, Snoop. Missionary, he has a project out that he did with Dr. Dre. These are all legacy acts. And what I find interesting is that it sounds like to me that a lot of these legacy acts are trying to find that new sound of hip hop. And I'm not saying that they're never going to use samples, right? But what I am hearing from my ears is that it doesn't sound the same as the 90s. And I think that that comes, with the fact that lack of samples. Also, the recording process has changed from fully analog to like most cases fully digital. Okay. And that has created a sound difference. And so I'm kind of excited because I'm hoping that the next 3 to 5 years will be an experimentation by various legacy acts. I'm hoping that they continue to try to figure it out, right? Continue to try to figure it out so that um, at some point in time we have a new definition of what hip hop sounds like, okay? Or not. We might just say, you know what? Hip hop is going to be fully electronic pop style of production, recording, or recording, production, and mastering, right? And what I mean by that, meaning that you'll have guys who are going to use synthesizers and synthesized created sounds fully, right? And as opposed to a combination of synthesized sounds and analog sounds or real instruments, right? That's what hip hop had always been, a combination of real instruments and synthesized sounds. Okay. But we may all just say, you know what? Forget about the real instrumentation, forget about the samples. It's just not worth it money wise. Let's just all go 100% synthesize. That way, um, we don't have to worry about clearing a sample. We don't have to worry about like other issues that could come around when you're using samples. We just use 100% synthesizers, right? And synthesizers can be drums, synthesized drums, synthesize, instrumentation, synthesized bass. We just go 100% that, and there you go. We might end up doing that. Okay, for some projects, like for Mad Scientists, um, it's mostly synthesized. I'll admit that, and I don't have a problem with that. Okay, but when I'm producing for other artists, then a lot of times I will use samples of real instruments. Okay, especially keyboards. Okay, because I could play but not play, and so I like to get samples of people who are really playing. Um, And then there's nothing like real strings, the warmth of real strings. And I'd like to put that in hip hop, like strings into hip hop. So, how is this connected to what we're talking about, this AI, right? The reason why I'm discussing this part first, okay, is because like I always say, I'm not going to show you guys how to. This is not a how to discussion, right? What this comes down to is the why. You come to me for the why, okay? And like I always do, I want to let everyone know I am a active DJ. Right? I'm an active resident DJ. What that means is that every week I'm playing music for people and I'm using my ears and my eyes to see how they react to certain music. I was at a place last night. I wasn't the DJ, but I wanted to hear this DJ and how they put together their set and what they played and how they played it. And I wanted to see how people reacted. Okay. That's what I do all the time, every day. Okay. And then I'm on the radio station. And although I don't get the immediate reaction, I can't see the people listening to the radio, so I don't get the immediate reaction. We can see on the back end what people want to hear, how they tune in, when they tune in, and what I'm playing at the same time. So the benefit to you listening to me is that I can tell you how things are being used, why they're being used, what's being used, and just the overall perspective of why you want to use certain things or not. You may decide, mad scientist, I hear you, but I'm just not going to do it that way. And that's a good thing, a good perspective to have. This is not music. The great thing about music, it's not cookie cutter, right? So one thing I may say is true in my case, somebody else's case, they may decide to do something totally different, and it worked. Okay. I listened to Missionary and I couldn't produce a record like that. Why? Because that record, it sounds like it's made for a live band, which I'm a DJ. So when I write my music has to fit, you know, into or it has to be catered towards other DJs. Okay. And it has to be catered to a club sound. And Missionary album, which is genius. If you haven't heard it, Missionary by Snoop, you need to go listen to it, especially if you're a producer, right? But just as a fan, it's a great piece of work. It's a genius piece of work. Uh, I never have anything um, negative to say about Dre, not because he's Dre, but because he's taken on the mantle or the mission of inventing sound, right? As opposed to just writing songs. He's not writing songs. Nobody ever says, "Hey, you remember that Snoop song?" Right? They when they reference Snoop, they reference his whole album, Doggy Style. Okay, they reference Murder Was the Case, CD, Chronic, because when Dre is writing, he's not or and producing, he's not writing and producing one song per song. He's putting together full projects, and each project has its own distinct sound. Okay, and so he's taken on that responsibility for in hip hop, and I appreciate that. He's always inventing new. He's always pushing us forward. So I don't, um, I don't really criticize him because that's a big responsibility. And he has to be perfect every time. He can't be kind of perfect. He can't be almost perfect. He has to be perfect every time. So salute to the guy. Salute to him. It's a great project, Missionary. Now, that being said, I'm not going to do that. So the point I'm trying to make is, if I say something and I give you a perspective and you decide, no, it doesn't work for me, that's perfectly fine. Okay. But I want you to understand that when I'm talking to you every week, I'm not giving you the how to, because there's plenty of videos out there for the how to's. Okay. There's plenty of videos on how to use Neutron 4, Neutron 5, whichever one you have. Okay. I have 4. I may get 5. Um, and I'll tell you why I may get 5, because I want to really, really check it out. But I definitely have 4. I definitely use it. Now let's get to the matter at hand. Okay. Um, what I'm going to do for the next 30 minutes is I'm going to explain to you my perspective on AI, number one. Number two, I'm going to introduce you to Neutron 5. Okay. I have Neutron 4, but Neutron 5 is out. So if you do decide to get it, you're going to get Neutron 5. Okay. And then I'm going to tell you how I use Neutron 4. Okay. Um, the discussion that we've been having is, should we use AI? And the answer that I've given in previous videos, which I'm still, I haven't had any reason to change my mind, um, is yes, I'm going to use AI. And the reason why I'm going to use AI is because um, I did go to school for music. I went to school for music composition or music theory, and I went to school for music production. Okay. Here's the thing, in both cases, whether you're doing, music theory or whether you're doing music production, right? The biggest part and the hardest part, and the part that separates those, we'll just say for the sake of the discussion, those that get an A and those that don't get an A, is ear training. That's it. That's the difference between an A and anything else that you get. You can go to music theory and they're going to tell you all the notes. and what the note values are and how to combine them. Okay. And a large part of it is math. If you understand how to divide things, like whole, half, quarter, eighth, 16. Okay. Uh, Another part of it is, when you're talking about combining notes, it's about understanding harmony. Okay. So you got rhythm, you got harmony. Okay. You got melody. Melody is about really is developing melodies. It's about understanding, spacing and direction. That's a whole nother discussion, right? You can go and do all that. You can figure that out pretty quick. Okay. And because melody is so subjective, like you can't get that wrong, right? If you like the melody, then that's melody is correct. The harmony, no, not so subjective, but it's not hard to figure out. And the rhythm, like I said, it's just about dividing whole, half, quarter, eighth, 16, right? You're only dealing with 16 notes, right? Or 16 parts. You're just filling in those 16 parts. But the one thing that separates the A student from everyone else, the one thing that separates the great artists, the great musicians, the great composers, the great producers is ear training. And if you don't have the right ear training, then everything else is just academic. You know, it's like right now, I'm learning how to design a drum because in order for me to write the kind of music that I want to write as loud as I want to write it, I have to design my own kick drum and my own 808. I can't just go get some random kick. And I know in hip hop, a lot of people do. They go get the kick and they go get the 808 and they just go with it, right? But then you come into phase issues that you don't know, that you're not realizing. A lot of people in hip hop don't realize their music is not as full as they want it to be. It's not as loud as they need it to be because they're kicking their 808 is phasing and it's diminishing the loudness of the track. Okay. So I'm learning how to design my own kick and I'm doing a pretty good job at it. But if I don't know what a kick sounds like, then it's hard to design my own kick. There's no such thing as a kick EQ profile. You can then just say, okay, I'm gonna create the kick and then EQ it a certain way, and I know that trust me, I've tried to find it, right? And at the end of the day, they even have as I digress, they even have Kick 3. Okay, it's a app. I mean, not an app. It's a tool. It's called. And those who design kicks know what it is. Kick. I forgot who makes it, but just Google Kick. Okay, the actual word kick, Kick, and 3. And in Kick 3, the great thing is they allow you to bring in um, kicks, right? So you can see what it looks like, the waveform. And so I did that with some well-known songs, like their kicks, and their kicks are phasing. I'm like, wow. Um, so um, you know, I have to design my own kick from scratch, and I have to hear how it sounds. That has to come from years of just listening to kicks and how they sound. And if I can't figure it out with my ears, then I won't have a kick. Either I'll have to have an out of phase kick or I'll have a horrible sounding kick. Um, and so I'm just dedicated to like figuring it out, right? But I know that it's going to have to happen with my ears. Okay. Now, you can look at my previous videos and I have ranted the same thing. Which is probably why, like, a lot of people who look at the videos will be like, "Come on, get to the exciting part." Sorry, this is the exciting part. Okay, but you don't come to me for the entertainment. That's Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Okay, if you want the entertainment, or you got to come to the club. Okay, this is about the reality of the why. Okay, and the reality is that you're going to train your ears. Okay, now getting to why I use AI. I use AI because I spend a lot of time using my ears for DJing. I have a very good ear when it comes down to DJing. Probably one of the best. I mean, it's excellent. 10 out of 10. Okay. When it comes down to making music or composing music or making beats. Our friend who's a musician, famous musician, he hates when people use that phrase, making beats, right? When I'm like composing music, I have a very good ear. Excellent. I would say my ear for composing is about 8 or 9. Some people might say 8. I want to say 9, right? I don't say 10 because I don't have a hit record yet. So can't just throw myself out there. But I have a very good ear. What I don't have or don't have a desire to do is develop an ear for musicianship. I don't want to develop an ear for mixing. I don't want to develop an ear for mastering. Why? Because the time that it takes for me to keep my ear, maintain my ear. And the thing about getting an ear or doing ear training, it's a constant thing. You can't just, oh, I got it. So now I it's not a degree. Oh, I got my degree. You can't take it from me. Nah, ear training is consistent. It's constant. It's always listening. Okay. It's always recognizing. Um, I was talking to my manager yesterday. We were talking about Summer Walker has a new song out um, called The Heart of a Woman. And my ear immediately heard, I was like, I told my manager, I said, that's R. Kelly's sound. He was like, really? I said, check it out. So he called me back after he checked it out. He's like, dude, as soon as I heard that song, it was like R. Kelly. And I asked, I was like, is Summer Walker gonna get away with using the R. Kelly sound, even though R. Kelly basically is canceled out? I love this song. I mean, R. Kelly had a sound that was just impeccable, right? Um, but that's what I use my ears for, okay? For hearing things like that. And so going through the mix process, which is why you use Isotope. You use it for different things. So the one we're talking about today is mixing, right? Neutron is made for mixing. Now, the question is, would I use it 100%? And I've said before, no, I would use it 90%. And then the 10% would be me and my experience as a DJ. Okay. But I would not use it 100%. Nah, but I am going to use it because what AI does is it is a collection, it learns from various genres of music what the consumer expects to hear. Okay. So if somebody says, okay, I want to listen to hip hop, they have an expectation of a sound, right? I'm sitting up here fixing myself. They have an expectation of a sound. Okay. They want it to sound like hip hop. And so what AI does is it says, okay, well, based upon the mean or the median or the average hip hop song. This is how, your instruments have to sound. This is how your bass needs to sound. This is how your entire song needs to sound. Okay. And so it AI gives you a good starting point for those, especially for those who either are beginners, B are like me, where it's like, look, I'm not sitting up here trying to spend hours and hours and hours, right? I always talk about the mixer Tezio. He's a mixer for Chris Brown, right? He has years and years of experience, so he knows what everything's supposed to sound like. So even though it doesn't take him a long time to get his stuff done, it's been a long journey to get to that point where he can sit there and say, "Okay, I know how it's supposed to sound." Okay, and that's ear training, right? That takes years. That takes time. And I'm not going to spend that time. I'm not going to spend those years trying to figure it out for mixing. I'm definitely not going to do that for mastering. I'm not even interested in mastering. I'm so typical. I just want, hey, make it loud. Make it loud, label it, let's go. And whenever I'm labeling my music, it's like, uh, I'm not excited about labeling music. Okay. So for me, I don't want to spend the time and the energy on mastering. I just don't. So what Isotopes AI instruments allow is for someone like me who's a DJ who wants to, write this music, and because I don't have the budget for all these engineers yet, um, to get me to the ballpark 90% of the way. And then I use my experience and my expertise in DJing and my experience and expertise in composition to then take it to the next level. Okay, take it the other 10%. All right, so now let's get into the actual um, Neutron 5. Okay, and I'm not going to really go into how to use all this stuff. I'm just introducing you to the product. I'm not endorsing it. I'm not getting paid from it. So I'm hopefully not going to show you how much it costs. Okay. You can go and find this product and decide, after you listen to me as to the why you'll use it, if you want to use it, and why you'll use it. Okay, you'll understand why, and you'll figure it out on your own. And there's plenty of videos out there on how to use it. Trust me. Okay, so this is the Neutron 5. It's fully AI, meaning that you can. Let me see if I can get a really good close-up photo of. Okay, I don't know if you can see it, but there's a button right up in here where you could push it, and this system will analyze your it will analyze your audio going in, whatever you have, whether it's a drum, whether it's a drum set, whether it's all your synthesized music, or your samples, or your full song. Okay, now with this right here, you don't really use it for the full song. I mean, you can technically, but you don't really use it. What you use it for is individual instruments. You also can use it for your buses, right? But you're not going to use it for your master. They have another plugin for that, which we're going to go over. Okay, it's a mastering, but you definitely use it for individual tracks, and you can definitely use it for your bus. Okay, now you can have this system listen to your individual track or your bus, analyze it, and then say, based upon the mean or the aggregate, not the aggregate, the mean or the median, or or based upon, you call this hip hop music, this is how it should sound. Okay. That's what it'll do. And you can start there. And I found it to be a very good starting point. I personally would not ever take what it does and just use it 100%. But I have said, okay, when I use it, I will use it 90%. Okay. Now let's go into the various parts of this plugin. So Neutron 5 has now a clipper. Okay. It didn't have a clipper before, but now it has a clipper. The density is upward compression. It's multi-band upward compression. And if you want to go find out what upward compression is, you can. I'm not going to go into what upward compression is. Okay. Now, why I may go ahead and upgrade to 5 is this right here. This, and I'm going to look at it a little bit more because I want to make sure. But according to this, it takes signals that are out of phase and fixes it. Okay, I'm gonna say that again. Takes signals that are out of phase and fixing. And I wish I could make this larger because essentially this is a kick in an 808 because that's where it matters, right? And that's where I, when I'm designing my kick and my 808, this is where I spend most of my time. I would say 80% of my time is spent. I would say even 95% is spent on making sure my kick and my 808 are in phase. Okay, at all phases, from the composition point to the mixing, and even through the mixing where it's like on the individual tracks, I have to make sure they're in phase. When they combine together, they have to be in phase. And when it gets, on the bus, on the drum and bus, on the drum and bass bus, they have to be in phase. And then when it gets to the master channel, I have to make sure that my kick and my bass are in phase. And it's a lot of time and effort. Now, this can somehow make sure that it's always in phase, then I may go ahead and upgrade. Okay. You also have the unmask, which again, I'm not going to tell you the how to use it, but the why you use it is just to, if you have, and you'll use it with the bass and the kick. Okay. Where's the energy of one instrument versus another instrument? And you try to balance out the two instruments so that one is not overshadowing the other one. Okay. The sculpture is like a resonance suppressor, transient shaper. Okay. Um, Again, that what that does is it designs. It's part of a design function, right? It functions as a designer. So if you have a snare, right? Do you want the snare to be ka, or do you want the snare to be k? Okay, that's what the transient shaper will help you do. The exciter is like a saturator. It's not it is a saturator. Okay. Um, the gate is the gate. Then the compressor is a compressor, and the equalizer is an equalizer. Okay, we're not gonna be explaining to you what an equalizer is. Okay, so that's what you get in this suite or this bundle, right? Is you get a real good mix of tools, and you get the AI, which will then say, let me go ahead and get out of this. Just stop sharing because we got like 10 more minutes. Okay. So you have a good suite of tools, and the AI says, okay, this is how hip hop's supposed to sound, or this is how your kick, mad scientist, this is how kick should sound, right? And then I have to say, okay, AI, you're saying this is how a kick should sound. Okay, so now that's 90%. The 10% is, and I will tell you how I use it. I will say, okay, yes, that's what you say. That's what a kick should sound like. Okay. But I have to use my ear training from DJing to determine, is that the kick that I want or that people who listen to hip hop want? AI, that's your opinion. But is it the opinion of the people? And that's where the 10% comes in. That's where the ear training for me comes in. So, very specifically, um, on my kick, I will use the EQ. Now, AI will say, hey, use this compressor. In fact, I think it has like it has the it uses everything, right? It uses the two compressors. It uses the sculpture resonant, right? It uses the EQ. Um, and what else? Oh, and the exciter, right? I took off the compression, the sculpture, and the exciter. I just used the EQ, right? Now you may say, well, why? Because, and then even on the EQ points, I took off a lot of the EQ points. Why? Because I know what a kick should sound like. Then I also have to keep in mind that every time you process that kick, right? Like you put an exciter on there, it has to stay in phase with the 808 that I designed. Okay. So that's where the 90-10 comes in. I may start with the AI, but then I have to use my 10% experience and know what to take out, what not to use. So that's how I use it. I will add saturation on a kick in a different way because I'm concerned about the bigger picture, not just the kick. I'm not gonna make a song with just a kick. If I was, then yeah, I probably would just okay, that's a kick, and it just be a kick going right. But who does that, right? I have to look at the bigger picture. Um, so I will use so just to go into how I use it, I literally will use this on I'm trying to think of because I'm actually producing music now for myself that's going to be released in February. Okay, releasing music in February. Um, I use it on my kick. I use it on. I don't really use it on any other things. Um, I use it on my 808. I also use it on musical instruments. The way I use it on my 808 is just EQ only. The way I use it on my musical instruments is EQ plus compression because a lot of times, with musical instruments, especially when you're sampling work real, you need them to be in the pocket. Like I need them to be super compressed. So I'll go ahead and use the compressors. It's zero latency. So like you can use all that stuff and the latency is like either zero or very low. It's virtually zero. Okay. Um, and then I will, depending on the sound, I'll go ahead and use the exciter. Okay. Because saturation adds loudness, and you got to add loudness at small phases. I will say that that's one of the how-to secrets, saturation. But you can't add saturation all at one time. You have to add it a little bit over every stage. So the track level, you got to saturate various ways. Okay. The way I saturate is I start off with, yeah, it's a cell channel that adds saturation. Okay. I'll add saturation, through compressors, right? I'll add saturation through clippers. That's another secret. Gotta learn how to use clippers. Okay. and I'll add saturation, just small bits, not a lot, not the total amount. Okay, just a little bit, and then I'll add the same thing in the bus level. Okay, I use AI on the bus level for resonant suppression. That's another thing that I do with the musical, going back to the tracks. Resonance suppression. You got to take those resonant frequencies that I don't want to take, I don't want to like figure out. I don't want to take the time to figure out every resonant frequency. So I will use sculpture and reso. That's another resonance suppression tool that I like. It's called reso. Okay, just Google that, reso. Excellent. Those are AI tools. They find all the resonant frequencies for you, and I use that on the track level, and I use it on the bus level, right? And so I use AI in that way. When it comes down to the bus, I also use I only use resonance suppression on the bus. Um, I'm going to say something controversial. I don't use a lot of compression. So, not on the music, not on the beat. Okay. That's another video as to why I don't. Let's not worry about that. Okay. We're just talking about AI and how I use it. So, just to kind of like go back again, because I don't want to make sure I haven't lost anybody. I use AI on the track, individual tracks, the kick, the 808, and also the musical. The way I use it on the kick is EQ only. The way I use it on the 808 is EQ only. On the musical instruments or the musical elements, I use, the EQ, compression, resonance suppression. Okay. Um, and then, so that's on the individual tracks. Then when I go to the bus, I'll use AI for resonance suppression again, because every time you add things together, it adds more resonant frequencies. Okay. So I'll use AI for resonance suppression. And then when I get to the, um, it, I'm just going to say master channel for the sake of conversation. I don't call it master. I actually call it the pre-master, but let's just call it the master channel. I'll use AI for resonance suppression. Okay. And so that's how I use Neutron. Okay. So I would say, to people that are listening, um, go ahead and if you agree with this, go ahead and get it. I'm not going to show a price because I don't want you guys to feel like I'm selling it. Again, what I'm doing is I am telling you why I use it. And the biggest reason why is because if you are an artist, if you are a DJ, if you are a producer, and you don't have the ear training necessary to be a mix engineer, to be a mastering engineer, that is what's gonna make people say, "There's something about it, I don't like it. Or it's missing something." If you heard that a lot, what people are telling you is that like they've developed an ear for what music should sound like in various genres. And if you don't have the ear training to get you that sound, then they're just gonna say, something's missing. I don't know. It's something about it. Okay. Or if they love it, it's because you've met their expectations for a sound. And if you don't have that ear training, okay, and I've had comments on previous videos where people are like, you're exactly right. And I know this. I'm not trying to be arrogant or anything, but I know this to be true because I've taken the classes and I've heard people comment on Quincy Jones. He has the golden ear. Okay, that's what that meant. Okay, when they said that Quincy Jones had the golden ear, what they meant was that he knows how things supposed to sound on an individual instrument level and as a collective level. A collection of instruments on an individual voice. that's a collection of voices, and then putting it all together. He knows how every single element is supposed to sound. Okay. So if you have not developed that ear, then AI is here to save you. Okay. That's the why. Okay. Now, how much AI you use, it's going to be up to you. I use about 90% AI, 10% my ears based upon my experience, my years of experience at clubs, DJing, watching people, right? Dance to certain kind of music. Okay, I have to use that experience. I can't just give it over to 100% to AI. But you may give it over to 100% AI. Or you may say, okay, I'll use AI 10% and 90% me. You know, it's really up to you. But I definitely would say for those who are beginners, definitely, yeah, it's a good starting point because it's like a teacher. Like, hey, this is what a kick's supposed to sound like, young, young student, right? And then you can start to develop your ear as, okay, why does a kick sound like that, right? Why does it have that kind of? Why does it? What's the click? What's the body? What's the tail? How do they all work together? Okay, and that way, um, you can learn from that. Okay, so I'm hoping and praying that all this information that I'm giving to you is helpful. If you have questions, comments, please feel free to go ahead and comment on the video. I will definitely answer. I'm a real person. I'm not AI. I'm a real person. And hopefully I was not boring. I'm trying to be more exciting, but this is the process that we go through as musicians, and you have to love it. Like when I'm trying to learn something about music, I'm not looking for entertainment, I'm looking for information. So I need people to like just talk to me, and that's what I try to do. So hopefully you found this information helpful. Hopefully you feel like, okay, yeah, I want to like learn from this guy. I will be back next week for sure. Next week we're going to talk about nectar, which is the vocal part, um, and I'm going to introduce you to that one. Um, I use nectar a lot because I just never developed that skill to EQ voices. Just and at this point, it's like I may double back, and I'm starting to double back, but I got to get stuff out. I got stuff I got to do, and I can't be, worried about like, oh, am I gonna EQ this vocal correctly? Like, just throw it on Nectar and move on. So that's just a preview of what we're gonna talk about. Um, yeah, but if you have any questions, feel free to comment, and I will definitely answer. If you have questions about anything, I'm probably going to answer. Okay. Once again, let me just remind you guys, my name is Mad Scientist, and I'm on the all new Power 97.5 LA. And I'm the host of the Midday Madness Show, which is way more entertaining than this. Okay. Trust me, it is. I got the hottest party music, first of all, the hot topics, talk about all kinds of hot topics, news, I review albums. Okay. And I let you know everything that's going down in the city of Los Angeles. Okay. And then of course some selling ads. All right. I think that's it. We're done. Until next week, I thank you so much for your time and attention. And see you next week. All right. That's it.